We want a clear understanding of what is the business.
But every presentation is like a striptease.
Show me the market opportunity.
Show me how big you can project. Are they fully in love with the idea that they're going to take it to that final point of exit?
What is the mindset of the startup founder? I mean, how he wants to develop his business over the course of time.
You can't be passionate about a mouse, okay? Maybe you can, okay? But if it's this small, it's hard.
I mentioned about the startup pitch competition that I recently attended and I judged, and there were 9 or 10 teams, and not a single one, when pitching, mentioning the value for the client. So what most of them did, they talked about their product and about the features. And my question was, what do you think these judges that sit in front of you, I mean, do you really think that they understand every one of those 10 different businesses? It is very complicated, even if you prepare ahead. So a very important thing is to have the right pitch deck with the basics that explain the business in roughly 10 slides. And if you cannot explain the business in 10 slides, well, you as a startup founder don't understand it well enough. This is what we want. We want a clear understanding of what is the business and how big can it become. How do you see the slides? I mean, we go through tens, if not the hundreds of them. Any patterns that you see?
Blanks.
Blanks.
Most of the slides are blanks. No impact, no explanation. And I say this seriously because I spend a lot of time on it. You have to have this slide, this slide. The content was not. So my first suggestion is put the slides aside, get up in front of a mirror, don't use a single crutch, and tell me what you want to tell me. No slides. You can use the slides later because for some things, words are enough. For other things, you need a picture. But people start with slides. I learned this from Scott McNeely at Sun Microsystems, who hated Microsoft and he hated PowerPoint. And so he got up in front of whatever, it was like 500 people or so, 300 to 500 people. And he said, you don't need PowerPoint. And he started to talk brilliantly, energetically for 30 minutes. It was substance and content and challenge and questions. And then he said, did anybody miss the slides? Okay. And once you know what you want to say, then you can build the slides. But if you don't know what you want to say, the slides become a substitute for that content. But every presentation is like a striptease. Forgive me, okay? I'm told this, I'm told this. In the back of my mind, there are questions that are nagging me. How much money are they going to ask for? What is going to be their valuation? No, you can't learn those things. I'm going to tell you this stuff, and that'll come boom as a surprise at the end. I would rather that somebody said to me, we are named Trident Systems. We were started in 2020, so we're 4 years old. We have 20 people. We have 30 customers. We get $30,000 a month. What we do for our customers is we reduce their time to implement the software system from 6 months to 2 months. We cut their cost from $150,000 to $30,000. We are looking for $1 million of investment to accelerate our growth at a valuation of $17 million. Let us tell you about the customer problems we're trying to solve. Okay, now you have 100% of my attention on what you want to tell me. I'm not worried about how old are you, because if you started 14 years ago, this isn't very impressive. I'm not worried about whether you are 3 people or 30. I'm not worried about whether you have any revenue at all or not. And I'm not worried about whether you have any customers who have voted for you. So in 40 seconds, you create an orientation, and the next thing you get to is, here's how we create value for our customers. Now I'm all ears. So that's a starter. The other thing that I would look for is stuff that, forgive me, doesn't appear on the slide. Has this team run into a big honking problem and solved it? Okay? 60 seconds. Give me an example. Okay? Has this team run into a big honking competitor, or are they prepared for a big honking competitor, and this is what we're going to do when they come in? It tells me how you think. It tells me that this is not a happy talk organization, but an organization that knows that our business is solving problems. And here are a couple of examples of how we do it. And the third thing that I'm looking for is, here's something that we did that was clever enough to get an asymmetric return, okay? We stopped all tertiary features. We focused on just the big ones. And by the way, if you could do it without a single slide, I'm there.
I hate these slides, by the way.
They tell you nothing.
Show me the market opportunity. Don't show me all these circles.
If you were me, what would you want to know about your company?
It's like, don't have the conversation with yourself, right? Talk to me, not to the screen.
And it's difficult, because the difficulty, if I'm a startupper, I'm agonizing about what should I tell them and not, okay? I shouldn't tell them the attrition rate because it looks bad, okay? I should only show the check marks competitor matrix and not tell them that a company started a year after me and is already fine. And so you're agonizing that. So let me help you. Stop agonizing. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. Also tell me, we recognize this problem, here's how we're going to fix it, and here's how we started to fix it. But that agonizing about what to say just takes the energy out of it. And believe me, I'm going to find out anyway, okay? It takes me half an hour on Google to find out how many competitors there are in your business. And if you think I don't do that, then you underestimate me as an investor. Now, there are things that are harder to do, like doing a couple of customer conversations and phone calls, but we'll find out. So be honest. And I guess the last thing I would say is that I look for any evidence of customer connection. So there are some exceptions where people say we had 75 conversations with customers. And I say, wow, if that's true, that's terrific, okay? Or I've never seen this, but it would be great. We've had X number of conversations with customers, then we did a survey to quantify it, and then we used that to figure out what prototypes to test.
Could I ask, Natalia, because you're very hard on startups when we talk to them.
Hard.
Well, you are.
Not hard enough.
Not like me and you. But you're a business owner and an investor in Silicon Valley, which is a benchmark now for, well, let's say for most of the Ukrainian startup founders. So everyone dreams about going to Silicon Valley and raising investment there and getting the customers. What are you looking at? What's the pitch deck for you?
Yeah, well, you have to be a good storyteller. So practice it, right? To tell a compelling story that is interesting, where all the pieces, you go on the internet, you can find what the key pieces that you have to address in the presentation. I'm not even going to go there. Some things that are missing often that I see, one is how big can you get your company to? And it's kind of interlinked with the market size, but just don't show me the potential addressable market. Show me how big you can project, right? That's typical. And what I also have seen with Ukrainian founders, sometimes very sort of small scale. That's a big miss. Another one, and whether it's a slide or you just address it, is how are you planning? What's the exit strategy? Because that's on the back mind of the investors, right? In terms of realizing their IRRs. What are you thinking? And if there is a potential acquisition, or there is somebody in your space who have been very successful, they went on IPO, right? But you're addressing a different, you think you could be like them, show the investor that example of how they achieve it and how you can get there. And another thing that also I think that is important and I watch out, how enthusiastic is the founder presenting the slide? Does the passion come through, right? And there could be questions like, why did you start that business? What's behind the name? Are they fully in love with the idea that they're going to take it to that final point of exit? I have witnessed presentations where the founder is sitting there and they are monotonous and they look like they're tired. And they're doing this for I don't know what nth time. And the
Hundreds of boring investors.
and enthusiasm and enthusiasm just not being present come through. And if you're not excited about your idea, why would I be?
One more very important thing that we try to, well, at least advise our startups who are applying, have a vision, have a strong vision that you can explain and sell to us. I understand that, again, for Ukrainian startup founders, it's oftentimes hard to, plan. We're now living in the world, in a country where planning ahead days is, funny. A lot of times, I'm not even talking about months or years, but having a strong vision of your product development, of your team development, of your sales development is something that investors that we are looking for, because then we can see what is the mindset of the startup founder. I mean, how he wants to develop his business over the course of time.
Very, very tough. Very tough because, vision. Can you see it? No. Can you touch it? No. Can you taste it? No. But it is tougher than steel because you can tell, and it's directly tied to the passion. You can't be passionate about a mouse, okay? Maybe you can, okay? But if it's this small, it's hard. But vision is something you have to work on. What do I, and hopefully my team will follow, really want to do for our beloved customers for the next 10 to 20 years? And that takes work. And there's no instrumente, that you fill out to build it. It's next to mission, the most important thing in the business. So for instance, when Amazon started, this is the simplest, okay? They were selling books. But somebody knew that if we succeed, and that's the key phrase, if we succeed, we can sell other small things you can put in the mail, like CDs and DVDs. And if we get that one right, we can sell other small things that you can put in the mail, like jewelry. Then you bet I'm going to invest time to develop a system of customer reviews and recommendations, because that thing means as much or even more for shoes and apparel than it does for books and CDs. Okay, everybody was Ubering around the world, and they said, well, private cars is good. But if I'm developing the technology for private cars, I can also make taxis more productive. And I can also make deliveries more productive. And I can have car sharing within a city. And I can have microbuses and corporate fleets for companies. And I can have car sharing between cities. And then all of a sudden, if I'm a potential investor, and I'm sorry that I couldn't have that opportunity, you can see how big this thing could be. What was the mechanism for Alibaba? Great, we started as a B2B exchange, zero inventory, then consumer, then logistics, then payment mechanisms, and you can see how you might get a 10 or 50 times return. And no, anybody who thinks Jeff was just interested in books hasn't been paying attention. Everybody who thinks that Jack Ma was interested only in B2B inventory wasn't paying attention, etc.
And just one more point that I want to make on when you make your presentation, watch for the questions that the investors are asking you. Because sometimes investors give you a softball and they give you a clue. For example, if I ask the same question twice in a row, if you hear that I'm asking the same question, maybe slightly different worded, maybe you have to think about quickly on your feet from a different perspective. Maybe the investor is asking for a different or slightly a different angle to the question, not to repeat the same answer. It happened to me a couple of times. That's why I just want to bring it up, that you're really quick thinking on your feet and really attentive to what the investor is asking.
Now, so that is great. What I want to see in the pitch is English as good in the Q&A as it is in the pitch. English as good in the Q&A as it is in the pitch.
The holy grail.
Because imagine that someone gets up, gives you a 10-minute pitch, no slides, and has a Q&A. And the Q&A is about to end, and they say, you know, I'm sorry that you didn't ask the following 2 questions. What's my attrition rate and what's my word of mouth? And then the presenter answers the questions that we should have asked. Mm-hmm. Now, no one is cheeky enough to do that, but it tells you that somebody has prepared not just to communicate the pitch, but somebody has thought through the 20 questions that are coming or should be coming to create a genuine conversation around that material.
Now I understand that, okay, not every pitch can answer all the questions. Not every Q&A can. And it is totally okay if there are questions that a startup founder cannot answer right at the moment. No problem with that. Just be honest and say, hey, can I get back to you tomorrow and give you all the answers?